Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Hello, this is Dory Cote, and today we're going to talk about healing grief, and specifically about being proactive but not negative.
Dory, our first question is from a listener. She writes, I am an activist. I want to stand up for what I believe is right, like not killing whales or destroying the rainforest. How do I stand up for my beliefs at the same time that I am trying to send love to everyone?
That's a great question. There's a difference between being completely inactive and not responding to the things that are happening, particularly in our environment and in our greater world in the way of atrocities against humans and animals. There's a difference between that state of inactivity, and having hope and taking action, having a voice. It's really important to have a voice and to express your opinions, because unless we express our opinions, then we cannot possibly add to the global sense of outrage and sense against the senselessness and make a difference in perhaps shifting the consciousness of other humans on Earth. However, it's the intention that we do that with, the way that we approach that really matters in the end. For instance, if we direct our anger about the outrage that we feel towards a particular group of people or a particular company, Monsanto is certainly one that comes to mind for me personally, we have to stay away from sending anger and rage or negative feelings and thoughts to a particular group of people or a particular organization. Because in doing that, what we're actually doing is feeding the negativity that is in the global environment. We're feeding the negative, which is not our intention at all. What we want to do is feed the opposite. We want to feed the positive. We want to help protect those whales. We want to help protect the rainforest. We want to help protect our environment, the air we breathe and the water we drink. And so the best way to do that really is to have a voice. Be really clear about what your intentions are. Be really clear about where you stand. But at the same time, don't direct your anger toward any particular person or group of people, because in doing that, you are doing harm in the end.
A follow-up listener question is, it can feel like there's a lot of evil in the world. How can I stay positive about my life when people are senselessly killed every day?
It's difficult to do. There's no doubt about it. You know, particularly, again, as I said in last week's podcast, there is a lot of darkness on the earth right now. We are being surrounded by humans who are, for whatever reason, being guided to create harm to other humans and animals and the environment. And to stay positive involves going to a deep spiritual core, remembering who we are as humans, who we are, that we have come, many of us, to be here to shine our light into the darkness. And we may give in from time to time and feel like we can't get off the couch because we're feeling so sad and so depressed about something that has occurred. And yet, if we stay in that place, then what we are doing is continuing to feed that negative perspective, that negative sense of there is evil, there is darkness, and I'm just going to give in to it. So what I suggest is that you get up off the couch and recognize that you, as we've said before, have power. You can counteract the evil by putting a lot of light on the other side of the balancing beam and recognizing that you really do make a difference and that you can help to surround the evil with so much light that it eventually fades away. Rather than dark, it becomes gray, and then eventually it becomes the light itself. Because darkness really cannot survive in the presence of light. So hold that belief in your heart, hold that intention, and really work hard at not succumbing. That's my advice.
Groups can accomplish more proactive change sometimes than individuals. However, group energy can shift and change. How can we know and sense the difference, and how best to pull out from a group whose intent changes without making enemies of former colleagues?
It is true that we all like to belong to some extent to groups of people whose vision is similar to ours, who want to advance the agenda that we personally have to protect the environment or stop senseless killing and what have you. So how do we align ourselves with these groups? It is important to check in with your own self and what are your values, because if the group that you're aligning with has shared values with yours, then this is good. Then you're in the right place. However, if you find over time that that group's values begins to go in another direction, where they're expressing their outrage in a negative way, where they are marching and all of a sudden the march becomes violent and there are people breaking windows and creating, violent scenes, then that's not hopefully in alignment with your values, and it's time for you to step away and find perhaps another group of people, a circle or an environmental organization or some other group that reflects your true values. And from there, you can then begin to participate in something that is helpful, because now you have not only your voice and your spirit, but the spirit and the voice of many others that can create a wave of wellness, a wave of healing, a wave of attention to a cause that you hold very dearly in your heart. My strong advice is, if you find yourself in a group or a circle of people that does not reflect your values, then it is of grave importance that you step away. And yes, there may be some people who are hurt or upset about your pulling away, and that's the way it is. You're not responsible for that. You're responsible for yourself and for being in alignment with your own values.
Thank you. Passionate reactions can cloud emotions. What is the best way to monitor our own negativity?
That is a huge question and a very complex subject matter. I am at times a very passionate person and have certainly been known to express deep emotional reactions to something that may be going on in my life or in the world in general. What I have found in my own practice of shamanism and in my own spiritual practice through many, many years is that the most important thing for me is to do my own shadow work, get deep into my own self, understand what is it that triggers me, how do I lose my balance, what is it that pushes me in a direction that isn't the direction that really reflects my true heart, the love of who I am, my divine nature? And how do I address those shadow aspects of me? How do I both embrace the shadow and at the same time not allow that shadow aspect of me to run the show? So it's really good to have passion. Passion is what fuels our love for the earth, our love for each other. And at the same time, we have to come to know ourselves well enough to understand when our passion is beginning to rule our emotions in a negative way, and then face that shadow work. This question may be leading us to another whole series of podcasts on, well, how do we do shadow work? How do we be our finest selves at all times? Thank you for that great question.
Nonviolent communication theory believes that in order to heal a turbulent situation, all the voices and all the positions must be heard and witnessed, even those committing the violence. It can be challenging to hold that position that every soul and every intention deserves listening to. How does this theory fit with shamanic teachings, or does it not?
It certainly fits very well with me as a shamanic practitioner. You see, I believe wholeheartedly, as do many other people practicing shamanism on a global level at this time, that our spirit is pure. It's divine. Everybody has this divinity within them without fail. Any human who is alive at this time or in the past or in the future is a divine being. And that divinity requires honor and respect, regardless of how that human soul, mind, body might be acting at any particular time. So let's say, for instance, let me give you an example. There are certainly many people alive at this time who are creating phenomenal turbulence on the earth. Specifically, I'm speaking about terrorism. There are humans that we see on media, and we cannot begin to imagine how they can be doing the things that they do. How could they possibly believe the things they believe? How can I send love to that person who is so misguided and creating such evil and harm on the earth? From my shamanic perspective, and that of, I know this is shared by many other globally connected shamanic practitioners, that human who is creating this great harm does in fact have that kernel within them. They do have, their spirit has that divine light, that kernel. However, their soul, which is another matter, we come into this life with that divine kernel, and we also have the soul. The soul can be changed. It can be altered. It can be impacted by negativity. It can be impacted by beliefs. It can be impacted by illness, and can be impacted by our mind and what we think and how we act. So if we go back to indigenous times and we say to ourselves, okay, each human who is alive is deserving of honor and respect because they do have that divine kernel within them, then my job as a shamanic practitioner is to feed that divine kernel, regardless of what that human has done on the earth, regardless of what they believe, regardless of who they are, regardless of what crimes they have committed. And feed that light, because it is from there that the shift will happen. It is from there that the changes will occur. And will I have an impact on that one person? Maybe yes and maybe not. But I know for certain, with every breath that I take, I believe this wholeheartedly, that by honoring the divinity in each human life, I am making a difference in global health and healing. Every human deserves a voice. Every human deserves to be listened to. And I may not agree with them, but I can agree with the fact that they have in them that divine spark. And it is possible to transmute the evil that surrounds them if I but notice, pay attention, honor, and respect that divine light that is within them. That's how I see everyone has a voice.
Our final question is there a prayer or a mantra or a ritual that can help steady us in this path of being proactive and not negative?
Again, I would go back to the personal. You know, one of the great things about shamanism, really probably the greatest thing about practicing shamanism, is that it's a path of direct revelation. It's not about giving your power to somebody else. It's about holding your own spiritual power. And so, yes, you could ask for some global ritual to be performed, but my preference would be that each individual who has the capacity to do a shamanic journey do their own journey and ask for a ritual or a ceremony that they can perform, which will help them to stay connected to their own wellness, that will help them stay connected to their capacity to transmute global grief, as well as their own grief, because our own grief, of course, feeds the global grief. So if we begin with the personal, we actually help the global. So that is my answer. If you have the capacity to do a shamanic journey, then do your own journey and ask for a ritual or ceremony. If you don't know how to journey, which there may be many, many listeners who do not know how to do a shamanic journey, I suggest you find somebody who can teach you how to do a shamanic journey. Claim this spiritual power for yourself. You deserve it. You are here on the earth. You are a spiritual being, and you deserve to have your own spiritual power. And owning that and learning how to access the spirits who are around you is a very powerful way to begin owning your spiritual power. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Is there anything else you want to add on being proactive and not negative?
Not at this time. I feel complete with this topic at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.